Chapter 7. The One Who Sees. The first scream wasn't heard. It wasn't even sound. It came like a cold breath, curling inside Decima's ribs, rising up the back of her throat. Memory that didn't belong to her. She froze. The shimmer had returned again, low and flickering in the valley, but this time it wasn't outside. It was in her, pressing through her chest like a hand. Her breath caught. Her magic recoiled. And then the vision dragged her under. She stood in an empty house. Rotting wallpaper peeled from the walls, the air thick with dust and something fouler beneath. Thompson Street, but not the one she knew. This was the past, before the shops, before the car park, before the cement buried the bones. Children had played here once, laughing, running across rooftops, slipping through broken windows like ghosts. She could hear their voices, distant echoes skipping down corridors. She could feel the floorboards flex beneath her feet. One creaked, and then cracked. Her foot broke through. She staggered, catching herself, and then she saw it. A hollow below the floor. Not a cellar, not a crawl space. A chamber, hidden, waiting. A single loose board lifted with a breath of memory, and beneath it, bones, tiny, curled. Rows of them. Dozens. Skulls, ribs, fragments of limbs. No cloth, no names. Some stacked, some scattered, as if tossed and left to rot. Her heart lurched, bile rising in her throat. And then she saw a boy, not crying, not speaking, just standing there frozen, staring down at the bones beneath the lifted floorboard. His face was pale. His hands shook. But he didn't run. He just looked at all of it. The broken remains. What was left of them. And Decima knew this was him. Her dad. A boy. Young. Too young to carry what he saw. But he remembered. And now so did she. She couldn't move. Whatever magic wrapped around the vision had her locked in place. Not physically, but magically. Like her body didn't belong to her anymore. She wasn't controlling anything. She was just there, watching. The room wasn't a room. It was a basement. Stone walls, rotten floorboards, a thick, wet heat that clung to her skin. And in the center, steam. Decima didn't want to look closer. But her eyes were already focused. This wasn't sorrow, not at first. Thompson Street, once known, once loved, was a place where skin color meant nothing. Where it didn't matter if you were black, white, Cardiff-born, or Malay. Accents differed. Kitchen smells told different stories. But the people lived like family. Poor, yes, but proud, kind, generous. Doors stayed open. If one child was hungry, a neighbor's mother would feed them. If you needed a coat, someone would bring one round. Roofs were mended together, not for money, but because that was what you did. Love was written in sweat and sacrifice. There was a table, blood-stained, wood warped with age, and next to it, a woman, older. Her robes were soaked in something, too dark to be anything else but blood. She wasn't working. She was pulling something from the air, from the body on the table, something glowing, flickering, something alive. Decima's stomach turned. She realized what she was seeing. It wasn't just some spell. It was a soul, a baby's soul. The witch wasn't killing. She was harvesting. Decima's hands shook. Her breathing quickened. The shimmer inside her chest, that heat that always came before something snapped, was already burning. And then the witch looked up, right at her. That shouldn't have been possible. This was a memory, a vision. She shouldn't be seen. But the woman looked straight through the veil, through time itself, and her eyes landed on Decima like a hook in the chest. "Blood sees blood," the woman said, not out loud but directly inside her head. "Yours remembers." The ground shifted beneath her. The vision didn't fade. It broke, hard, like glass shattering from the inside. She slammed back into her body with a jolt. She hit the mud, palms scraped, lungs gasping. She was back in the clearing, but she wasn't alone. There was a child in front of her. Barefoot, mud on his legs, around 7 years old. Mixed race, skin a soft brown, tight dark curls, eyes sharp and knowing, familiar in a way that made her chest ache. She blinked hard. "Dad?" she said, not meaning to say it out loud, but the words slipped out anyway. "Is that you?" It didn't make sense, but she knew. Deep down, where magic lives before it has a name, she knew. He didn't speak. Just stared. His face wasn't blank, it was calm. Like he understood everything and had nothing to prove. She tried to touch him. Her fingers passed through smoke. "What happened to you?" she asked quietly. "Why didn't they stop her?" He didn't answer. He just raised one arm and pointed. Not behind her. Not to the basement. Not to the past. At the one still hiding it. At whoever had let it happen. The vision shifted, not forward or back, but sideways. Decima stood at the edge of the same street, only now it was alive. Laughter spilled from open windows. Steam rose from pans balanced on battered stoves. Children sprinted past on bare feet, chasing each other with sticks and ribbon scraps. A woman hummed while sweeping her steps, nodding to the cobbler next door who repaired boots for free. And then beneath it came the crack. A shift in the air. Something watching. The vision dipped under the floorboards, but this time Decima wasn't dragged. She chose to follow, to see what the kindness above had never suspected. A woman stood in shadow, not old, not young, robes out of time, fingers heavy with rings shaped like teeth. She smiled. Behind her, small figures lay on tables, still silent. They had been brought here. Women thought they were coming for help. Abortions, private, quiet, hidden. They did not know it was a witch's house. They did not know she would keep them. Their bodies, their breath, their souls. Steam rose from a copper bowl, curling into a rune only those bound to dragon blood could read. She was feeding something. Power, bloodline, legacy. Decima gasped. The spell was not merely dark, but forbidden. She reached for magic, yet it was only a vision. She could watch, could witness, nothing more. Above, laughter continued. Mothers kissed scraped knees. Fathers carried shopping for neighbors. The world turned, generous and unaware, while beneath it all, the witch carved spells in silence, stealing the light of the next generation. The shimmer behind her spine hadn't stopped. It pulsed harder now, faster, syncing with her heartbeat like it wanted her to feel everything that came next. The child stepped forward through the clearing. He wasn't a ghost. He wasn't real either. He was memory, magic, and something else. Something ancient trying to make itself known. He looked about 7. Light brown skin, thick curls that fell over his forehead, eyes sharp enough to cut straight through her, the kind of stare that knew more than a kid ever should. He didn't flinch. He just looked at her like he'd been waiting. Decima's voice caught. "You're—" He didn't let her finish. His hand lifted slowly, pointing toward the shattered space where the vision had broken. She followed his gaze, and saw them. Women, dozens of them, some barely more than girls, others older, worn down by time and fear. Their bodies swayed slightly in the heat of a fire pit, clothes torn, eyes blank. They were in a line, silent, barefoot, walking through an open door into what looked like a clinic. But wasn't. Brick walls, rusted tools, surgical tables stained with things no one had ever cleaned. A witch stood at the end of the corridor, clipboard in hand. She wasn't hiding. She smiled at each one as they passed, offered them something warm to drink, told them they were doing the right thing. She told them they'd feel better after. She told them it was almost over. She lied. The boy stepped beside Decima, still silent, watching with her as the next part unfolded. Inside that basement, behind one of the doors, a metal cot, then another, then another. Some were empty. Some weren't. There was no crying. No screaming. Just small bodies, limbs that barely moved, skin too pale, a flicker of something. Maybe breath, maybe not. The witch walked calmly through them, one hand glowing faint green. Her other hand held something sharp. She didn't rush. This wasn't madness. It was controlled, deliberate, clinical. She didn't kill them right away, Decima said quietly, almost choking on the words. She waited. The boy beside her nodded, just once. She wanted their souls first. Decima's hands curled into fists. Her magic boiled under her skin. This wasn't just a rogue witch. This had been organized. Protected. Hidden. She looked back to the child. They let it happen? He nodded again, then pointed, not at the witch, not at the victims, but at the symbol carved into the stone behind them. The seal of the witch's council. Decima's breath stopped. This wasn't rogue at all. This was sanctioned. Why would they? She started. But the boy was already fading. Not walking away, just vanishing. Like the shimmer had called him back. Before he disappeared completely, he said one thing. Not with his mouth, but in her mind. Tell them what you saw. Then he was gone. The shimmer snapped shut behind her, leaving only silence. But it wasn't over. Not even close. This wasn't her memory now. This was his. The shimmer behind her spine hadn't stopped. If anything, it pulsed harder now, faster, sinking, with her heart beat like it wanted her to feel everything, every memory, every secret buried under tarmac and time. Decima looked up. The clearing had vanished. Now she was standing in the middle of a narrow street. Except it wasn't there anymore. Not really. Thompson Street. But not as it looked now. The houses were back. Tall. Crumbling. Brick blackened with age. Shops with shuttered windows. Rusted signs. Children ran past her, shadows of the past, laughing. Vanishing through broken doors. Clotheslines flapped above alleyways. The air smelled of smoke, coal, and seaweed. Poor but alive. It felt like community. Black, white, Malay, Irish, people from everywhere. They didn't have much, but what they had, they shared. No one locked their doors. Kids played from attic to attic. People looked after each other like family. It was the kind of place no one would ever expect something evil to exist. And yet it had. The vision shifted. The air turned heavier. Decima was standing in the middle of a derelict house. The red brick building circled in the car park, now paved over. But back then, it was whole. Empty, silent, and rotting. Floorboards loose under her feet. That's when she saw it again. The boy. Her dad, about 7 years old. Brown skin, tight curls, scraped knees. Clothes too big, face too thin. But those eyes, they held something sharp. Like he knew this wasn't a game anymore. She followed him silently as he crept through the corridor, lifting loose boards. He wasn't looking for trouble. He was looking for treasure. Something forgotten. Instead, he found death. The boy stopped, froze. Beneath the floor was a space almost 5 feet deep. Dust, wood, and bones. Tiny bones. Dozens of them. Some wrapped in old rags. Some still wearing hospital bands. And beneath it all, the stink of something ancient. Decima's stomach turned. She tried to speak, but the vision held her silent. The boy stepped back. He didn't scream. He didn't run. He just stared. And behind him, the air shimmered. The witch stepped forward. Older. Gray hair matted to her skull. Robes not of a healer, but a butcher. She didn't look surprised to see the boy. She looked disappointed. "You weren't supposed to come here yet," she said. "You weren't ready." She raised her hand, and the vision broke. Decima gasped, back in her body, knees in the mud. The shimmer above her throbbed. The boy was gone again, but the memory stayed. The street, the bones, the truth. This hadn't been a clinic. This wasn't medical. It was back street, hidden, illegal. Desperate girls, some barely. More than children, sent there to make their problems disappear. But the witch hadn't just taken their babies. She took their souls, and now buried under the car park behind Home Bargains, behind the store that stood where the houses once were. Those souls still whispered. They hadn't moved on, and Decima knew. The witch's council had known. They'd let it happen, and it wasn't over. Not yet. The clearing was quiet now. Too quiet. The shimmer had gone, the boy was gone, but Decima couldn't move. Not yet. Her hands were still cold from the vision. Her knees were damp from the mud. And her heart was somewhere else. Still in that basement, still staring at the table. At what the witch had done, at what they'd all let her do. She stood slowly, wiping her palms on her coat, eyes fixed on the tree line. Daniel hadn't spoken in minutes. He knew not to. The air around them still held the echo of the child's warning. "Thompson Street," she said quietly. "That's where it happened." Daniel frowned. "Where what happened?" She looked at him. Really looked at him. "My dad, when he was 7, he saw it, he told people. No one believed him. Said it was a story, a lie, but it wasn't." She turned and started walking fast. Down the hill. Toward the valley road. Toward the town. Daniel followed. "Where are we going?" "To the place they covered up." It didn't take long. Thompson Street had changed, but not enough to forget. The houses were gone now, replaced by a car park, and the bright sign of a Home Bargains discount shop glowing above concrete. But Decima's feet knew where to stop. The center of the car park. The red-circled space burned in her mind. She could still see it. See the old terraced houses, the stone steps, the warped front doors, the one her dad had gone into when no one was looking. Just a kid. Just curious. He'd walked across the attics, slipped down into an abandoned hallway, and there, under a floorboard, he'd seen them. Not bodies. Bones. Tiny. Fragile. layered in dust and old air. Dozens of them. Babies. Aborted, they'd said. Illegal clinics. Whispered procedures behind closed doors. But this hadn't been some rogue backstreet job. This had been something else. Something worse. They didn't just kill them, Decima whispered. They harvested them. Daniel didn't speak. He stood still beside her, eyes scanning the concrete as if he could see through it. People went there for help, she went on. Girls who couldn't have babies. Women with no one to turn to. Poor. Desperate. Told it would be quick. Safe. That no one would ever. You'd know. She looked up at the sky, at the building where the home bargains now stood. They were lied to. That wasn't a clinic. That was a feeding ground. Daniel finally spoke. Feeding what? She met his gaze. Her voice was ice. The Witches' Council. His jaw tightened. You're sure? Decima nodded. I saw the sigil, carved into the basement wall, same one Myla wears on her robes. There was silence between them. And the women? He asked. The ones who ran it? They were witches, trained, sanctioned, not rogue. This was a ritual, a system. They kept the babies alive just long enough to rip the soul from the body. Then they discarded what was left. Daniel swore under his breath. Decima's magic rose in her throat, hot, bitter, restless. My dad saw it, she said. Tried to tell them. No one listened. Not then, not now. Daniel looked out across the empty space. Do you think they're still down there? She nodded. I know they are. The ground hadn't been dug. The house had been flattened, the rubble buried, then paved over. It was all still beneath their feet. Every soul, every secret. She stepped forward, feeling the heat rise behind her eyes. This was never just about us, she said. The dragons, the bond, the shimmer, it's all connected. And this, she glanced at the sealed ground. This was part of it. Daniel looked at her. So what do we do? She didn't flinch. We burn it open. My dad saw it, she said. Tried to tell people. Daniel turned to her. She nodded. He told the police. He told his parents. He told his teachers. Her voice cracked. No one believed him. The words hung in the air like a curse. Heavy. Damning. Final. Daniel didn't speak. He didn't need to. Because they both knew the truth. The Witches' Council hadn't just done this. They'd buried it. And everyone who tried to speak. Decima looked down at the concrete beneath her boots. The same place her dad had stood. A boy, 7 years old, holding a truth too heavy for the world to carry. But she would carry it now. She stepped forward and whispered like a vow, I'll make them believe. They told him to stop making things up. The boy, mud still on his legs, voice shaking but clear, had walked straight into school and said it. It wasn't just a vision. It was memory. His memory, carried in her blood, her breath, her bones. Told the teacher what he'd seen. About the strange woman. About the smell. About the room under the house near the car park. About the babies. He didn't cry. He didn't panic. He just said what he saw. And they stared at him like he was broken. His teacher said it was imagination. His mother and father laughed. But he didn't forget. He tried again. Days later, told someone else. A neighbor. A man from church. The response was always the same. You've got a wild mind. Don't say that sort of thing. Are you sure you weren't dreaming? He stopped talking. For a while. But it didn't stop him remembering. Because the place didn't vanish. Not right away. Not for years. The houses around it were knocked down. Streets changed. Signs moved. But that stretch of land stayed empty. Like the ground didn't want anything built on it. And he went back. Not just once. Again and again as he got older. Kept checking. Kept waiting for someone else to see it. The entrance had been boarded up. Then cemented. Then buried. But he knew where it was. He remembered the cracks in the bricks. The rusted hinges. The way the air went cold around that red back door, even in summer. What he didn't know. What he couldn't know was that it wasn't just the woman doing it. She was part of something older. Bigger. That street had been chosen for a reason. Close to the town but hidden. Poor, so no one would ask questions. And for decades, girls who couldn't go anywhere else were sent there. Told it was safe. Told it was clean. Told it was just a routine thing and they'd be okay in the morning. Most never knew what really happened. And the ones who did didn't live long. Not because of illness. Not because of guilt. But because she made sure they couldn't talk. Their souls were taken, just like the children's, for power, for payment, for some ritual that never fully ended. Because even now, in the space where the boy had once stood shaking in the school corridor, the air still held the echo of what had been buried. And one day, someone was going to dig it up. No one believed him. The houses flattened, the red door buried. In its place, a car park, a discount shop. But beneath the tarmac, the truth was still there, waiting. The wind shifted. Just slightly, but enough. Enough for Decima to know the shimmer wasn't finished. It moved beneath her feet now, not in the air. A tremble in the mud, in the roots. The same hum that had surrounded her in the clearing, now throbbed below ground like a heartbeat. She crouched low, hand pressing to the soil, and felt it. Something was under there. She looked toward the spot where the boy had stood. Empty now, silent. But the magic hadn't faded. If anything, it had started to spread. Lines of light glowed faintly across the clearing, like cracks in the world. Golden veins beneath the earth. She followed one with her fingers, tracing it to the base of a twisted tree. The roots curled around something solid. She didn't think. She dug. The dirt came up fast, soft and damp. Her fingers struck wood. A box, old, warped, sealed with a rune she didn't recognize, but her blood did. Her magic thrummed so loud she almost couldn't hear her own breath. She whispered a spell, instinctual, not learned, and the rune gave way with a hiss of heat. Inside the box was a folded piece of fabric, and beneath it, a map, not of the town as it was now, but as it had been. Before the knockdowns, before the red house disappeared, dozens of buildings were marked, circles, symbols, notes in a language part Welsh, part witchcraft. And at the center, marked in red ink, her symbol. The same one carved behind the basement. The same one that burned inside Decima's chest when she'd touched the shimmer. Whoever this witch was, she hadn't worked alone. This had been bigger. A network, hidden beneath time and silence. A movement. Decima's stomach turned. The back of the map held something else. Names. People. Some crossed out. Some still alive. And one of them, one near the top, was underlined. Counselor Marinadarin. She stood slowly, the box still in her hands. This wasn't just a haunting. This was a cover-up. Decima didn't sleep that night. She didn't even try. The clearing had emptied, but the weight of what she saw hadn't lifted. It clung to her skin like damp ash. Her boots were still muddy. Her fingers still trembled. Her thoughts raced, wild and sharp, like fire trapped in bone. She didn't go home. Instead, she walked, all the way to the coast road, down past the edge of Thompson Street, past where the houses had been, past where the car park now sat in its place like a slab of silence. She stood at the center of it, bare earth, gravel, the remains of something no one wanted to talk about. And she whispered, "I saw you." The wind didn't answer, but something old shifted in the trees nearby. She knew what had to happen now. Names, records, proof. The Witches' Council had erased things before. They were masters of it, but even magic left traces, if you knew where to look. And one name had slipped through. Marinadarin, not some dead witch in a vision, not part of the past. She was still on the council, still living, still powerful, and she'd been around long enough to know, maybe even long enough to be part of it. Decima pulled her hood up and stepped into the shadow of the trees. She wouldn't go through official channels. She'd seen what happened when you told the truth. Now it was her turn to do something else. Find the ones who hid it. Make them talk. Make them pay. The wind shifted again. Something moved deeper in the forest. The shimmer wasn't gone. It was waiting, and this time, Decima didn't walk away from it. She walked straight into the dark. The shimmer hadn't fully left her. It clung to Decima's bones like a warning not yet spoken. She walked away from the ruined houses slowly, her boots dragging through the mud and gravel that had once been a living street. Her head spun with everything she'd seen. Her father as a boy, the witch harvesting souls, the council's seal carved behind it all. But something else pressed at the edge of her mind now. Not memory, not pain. A pull. It wasn't the shimmer. It wasn't Daniel. It was older. Deeper. She followed it instinctively, weaving between overgrown hedges and brambles that had crept in since the street was cleared. They didn't scratch her. They moved. Like they recognized her. Like they were making room. At the far end of the space that used to be Thompson Street, where the ground dipped slightly, was a wall, brick, partially collapsed. Behind it, a tree, not just any tree, twisted, gnarled, sick with something ancient. It pulsed faintly with dark veins under the bark. As she stepped closer, the air dropped cold. The ground beneath her shoes turned black. She stopped. And then the tree moved. No, not the tree. Something behind it. A shape. Then slowly a figure stepped out. Not ghostly. Not illusion. Real. It was a woman. Pale. Thin. Her face shadowed beneath a dark hood. Eyes glowing faintly violet. Not beautiful. Not terrifying. Something worse familiar. I wondered when you'd come, the woman said softly. Voice like frost cracking glass. I've been waiting for you, Decima Wren. Decima's mouth dried. Who are you? The woman stepped fully into view now. Her robes were faded but carried the same seal, twisted and blackened. The corrupted version of the witch's council crest. I'm the one they buried, the woman whispered. The one they erased. The one who warned them, long before they let the blood flow. She reached into her cloak and pulled something out. A page. It shimmered under the night sky, edges glowing silver. Your father saw, but he was only the beginning. She held it out. Decima didn't take it. Not yet. What do you want? The woman smiled. Not kind, not cruel. Truth. I want the truth to be remembered. I want them to burn for it. Behind her, the twisted tree groaned, its bark cracking open just slightly, like it was listening. And then, for the second time that night, Decima felt it. The shimmer changed. Not pulsing now, humming. Calling. Something was waking. The smell hit her first. Not fresh smoke, but old, soaked into brick and bone. Like it had never left. The kind that clung to your throat and made your eyes sting, even though the fire was long gone. Decima stepped carefully over the cracked pavement, her boots crunching through gravel and broken glass. The old car park was quiet now. No one around, no cars, just silence and ash and a faint humming under her feet that told her the ground remembered. She stopped where the red house had once stood. Nothing remained, not even a brick. Just a blackened square of dirt and weeds where the tarmac had split open. But she could still see it. In her mind it was there, the doorway, the smoke-stained curtains, the shadow on the second floor that had never been quite human. Her magic stirred beneath her skin. The shimmer flared, subtle but sharp, like something recognizing its own grave. She knelt slowly, brushing her hand over the broken earth. It was warm. Not sunlight warm, heat from beneath, from the magic that had burned and buried itself deep after the witch was gone. But the ashes didn't lie. Visions came again, not full ones, just flashes, a flicker of a woman's face, half-burned and smiling, the glint of metal trays, cries swallowed by enchantments, and then rows of jars, sealed, glowing faintly red, lined up in the dark beneath the floorboards, souls still trapped. Decima's breath caught in her chest, her hand clenched into the soil. They never left. They were still here. She whispered a word under her breath in the old tongue. A release spell, a soft one, meant for peace, not power. But the ground answered with a growl, a slow rising sound like the earth itself was angry. And then movement. From the far corner of the lot, a shape stepped forward. Not a spirit, not a witch, a man. But not just any man. Counselor Marin Adarin, Decima said quietly, standing. Her voice didn't shake. Didn't think I'd find you here. His expression didn't change. Just cool, unreadable eyes and a long coat that fluttered in the wind. I came to see what you do, he said. And whether you'd survive it. Decima looked at the ground again. I didn't just survive it, she said. I saw everything. He didn't reply. But he didn't deny it either. And that silence told her more than any answer ever could. Decima didn't move for a long time. The wind picked up, pushing strands of hair across her face, but she didn't flinch. The ashes, the shimmer, the truth. None of it surprised her now. She'd seen too much. Counselor Marin was still there, silent, watching, like a statue carved from shadow and judgment. What happens now? She asked, voice flat. He tilted his head slightly. That depends. Will you tell them? Decima stood. You already know the answer. His eyes narrowed just a fraction. You could burn for it, he said. I'm not afraid of fire, she said. Silence again. Not a peaceful one, a measured one, calculating. Then he turned without another word, walking away across the cracked tarmac, disappearing into the morning fog like he was never really there. Decima stared after him. Her hand still hovered over the soil. Beneath it, the trapped souls pulsed faintly, still there, still waiting. She wasn't ready to release them. Not yet. Not until the rest of the council saw what she'd seen. Not until they were forced to look. She rose to her feet, letting the wind carry the last of the smoke away from her clothes. As she stepped off the ruined ground, the shimmer behind her, spine pulsed again, faint, steady, like a heartbeat returning. Behind her, the earth shifted, one final crack in the soil, and a whisper, one only she could hear. "Remember us." Decima didn't look back. She didn't need to. She remembered, and she would never forget.